Hello there, YouTube crew. I'm the real Dill, and today I want to start with a new series where I rank each Mission Impossible movie leading up to the new one coming out. And so before we actually do any of them, I gotta pull out the rule book of how I'm going to do it, right? Now, the film franchise is based on a 1960s television show which had a revival in the 80s. It featured a rotating ensemble cast, and its plots were very much built around heist tropes, not simply spycraft. And in the mid 90s, Tom Cruise teamed up with Paula Wagner to form their own production company. They quickly got the rights to the series, and Mission Impossible became their first movie as producing partners. One of the unique features of this franchise is just how much the look, feel, and tone of each movie is a stamp of the director that made it, rather than continuing what had been previously done. Now, don't get me wrong, all the tropes and much of the character stuff is very much the same. They bring the same like spycraft elements, right? But like as the way that stories are told, the way that it looks on film, it's very much as each director wanted it to look rather than a franchise look to it. And that is why directorial style is the first category we'll be ranking. And each category will have five subcategories with a maximum of 3 points for each subcategory. And we'll tally them up at the end and figure it out. Under directorial style, we'll be looking at tone, which is how the filmmakers approach the material. Mood, what emotional response the film elicits from the audience. Score, that is the music for the film. Now, every film in the franchise uses the same title theme from the original. So that's going to be pretty standard throughout. But, we're going to be looking at the broader score and how it works with the film, the atmosphere of it, who was the composer, right? Title sequence. Just like the main theme, all the movies are working off what the original set out. And what was peculiar about the title sequences of the original show and the show in the 80s is that instead of having like, just made up shots or whatever for the title sequence or pulling from the season of the show or prior seasons of the show to fill out a title sequence, every title sequence used shots from the episode itself. So it was a new title sequence every episode, and it showed what would later happen in the episode, even spoilery stuff, right? And every film in the franchise does this as well. Like if you just stop and analyze the title sequence very carefully, you could probably figure out the plot and twists and turns of the movie if you so wish. But it's one of those things where like they can show it in your face and you kind of just absorb the feeling of it rather than trying to pick out the particular details. I mean, it's fun later on after you've seen the movie to look at that. It's I can't believe they showed that, right? But yeah, it's a pretty cool way to I really like how they do that. I think it like one, it's a great homage to the original show. And of course, you typically have the lit match and fuse. That I believe the very 60. I'm not sure about the 80s title sequence, but the 60s title sequence always had the burning fuse throughout every single shot of the title sequence. And you're not going to see that in the movies, but you're going to see kind of the play around with the match and light, right? And finally, cinematography, that is the look of the movie, how it's shot. Next up is character. Our protagonist, Ethan, like how is he portrayed? Then there's his team. Who's on Ethan's team? What's their personality and dynamics? Then there's the boss. Who's Ethan's boss? And how effective and memorable is he? And of course, antagonists. How good are the villains? After that is conflict. Firstly, how impossible is the mission? Because that's why we're all here. Then there's stunts. Now, as I said earlier, this franchise was established by Tom Cruise and is really as a showcase of him as an action hero, right? And that kind of, you know, developed into his personality as this actor who does all these dangerous and insane stunts. He'll learn new things for upcoming movies like that, and he's like it does all this insane stuff. And a lot of people refer to him as kind of the last real A-list actor, right? The stunts on their own are just one of the selling points of the movie is like, what is Tom Cruise going to do in this one? Like in the upcoming movie, it is him riding a motorcycle off a cliff and then parachuting off of it. Like that's pretty insane. And he did it like I think 8 times. Set pieces. These give context to the stunts in action by their relationship with setting and story. Ticking clocks. This is a feature which ratchets tension by way of how danger increases as time passes, typically with a point of no return, like a time bomb, right? And interpersonal conflicts, how the team deals with each other, the protagonist versus antagonist, more of the verbal, ideological conflicts. Then there's story. We'll go over the narrative, synopsis and beats, character progression, how Ethan and or his teammates change or don't change. Romance. How good is the romantic subplots, twists and turns? These are spy movies. They gotta have these. And of course, resolution. How satisfying is it? Finally, there's Mythos. How is the legendary status of Ethan Hunt utilized? What spy gear returns or is added? Are Ethan and his team disavowed? What various places are going to get visited and infiltrated? And lastly, how good are the fake outs on the audience and characters? So that's 5 categories to judge these movies on, with 5 subcategories and 3 points for each subcategory. So what is that? 5 times 5, 25 times 3, 75. 75 points per movie. And I'm thinking, have a bonus for each movie as well. It's probably be individual to each movie, and we'll see how they stack up. My projection, while number one is one of my favorites, next to five, I looking at the franchise, just how each movie feels. It's really the fourth one when they hammer home what exactly Mission Impossible as a film franchise is. And so from 4 to 6, hopefully on to 7 and 8, they're going to be very high scoring movies. I think one has a chance to be up there with them. 2 and 3 are going to be the weak points, and 2 is my absolute least favorite. Like it's a fun movie, but it hardly ever feels like a Mission Impossible movie. The style of the movie in particular, it doesn't quite fit the franchise. I expect that to be the lowest. I expect probably 4 or 6 to be the highest ranking, but of course 1 and 5 are my favorites. So I might have a good bonus for them to boost them up, right? You can actually play along if you're a fan of the franchise. You can look at these categories and see where you would rank each movie, right? And until next time, I'm the real deal. Goodbye.